Hello everyone, my name is Christian. Welcome back to Tekpon. Today, our guest is Venki, the founder at Indusface. Hello.
Hi, Christian. Good to be here.
Nice to meet you. Please tell us what your company does.
Yeah, so we are in the business of protecting applications, web applications in APIs. Central to any business today, doesn't have to be a tech business, any business today, they are powered by applications, especially with their digitization drive. And as part of that, speed is of essence for their very survival. If it's no longer just how big you are, it's how fast you are. So speed is about needed for survival, and digitization has given it a rocket fuel. And post COVID, it has become a must-have part of any business strategy as part of that. And what is powering those digitization is applications, and with those speed comes risk. That risk is security risks, right? So we take that pain away from businesses, saying that while you go ahead and do launch new services, new application, go ahead on your digitization journey, we will ensure that your applications and your APIs are protected by giving you visibility of the risks, by ensuring those risks are protected instantly and monitor it on a continuous basis. So our vision is to enable businesses to go digital fearlessly, and our mission is to enable them to do that by protecting their applications and making it extremely easy for them to do so.
That's great. Thank you for explaining. What are the main products that you offer?
Our platform, application security platform, is Aptrana, and it's possible for customers to slice and dice and buy certain aspects of it, but the whole platform, the Aptrana platform, where app is applications and Trana is basically means defense. And so it's Trana is in Sanskrit, it means defense.
Okay.
So in this platform, if you look at the entire ecosystem of an application, the number one problem is they need to have an understanding and discovery of applications. What are my public facing assets? So we start with discovery. So we provide a discovery of all the public facing applications that exist. Then what are the risks against those public facing applications? So we provide scanning, web application scanning, on demand, unlimited number of scans that they can provide. And then once the risk visibility is provided, then we provide protection through our web application and API protection platform. And then finally, it's not a point-in-time configuration that you set it up and forget. We provide continuous management and monitoring to make sure the cycle of discovery, risk visibility, risk protection, and then updates goes on a continuous basis. So it starts at discovery, scanning, protection, which is our web application firewall, and monitoring. All of them bundled together. Of course, the customer can come back to us and say that I just want scanning and risk discovery and risk scanning to begin with. But when they come and get the protection from us, we automatically include the other two with that. So Aptrana, the platform, and within the Aptrana, there is a small carved out piece that they can start out with, which is the web application scanning.
That makes total sense. Thank you for sharing. What would you say are the top 3 most loved feature?
Top 3 most loved feature? Yeah, so the number one feature in our platform is combining discovery, risk assessment, and protection in real time. Because in the current ecosystem, what happens is somebody is going and doing an automated scanning. Somebody else is doing a manual penetration testing. Somebody else is thrown in a box and says that here are the policies you configure and you manage it. And then the customer has to manage all of this on their own. So the number one feature they like is we piece together all the relevant components of an application security ecosystem and put them under one umbrella and included management on top of it. So the comprehensiveness and the integration is the number one feature. The number two feature, which our customers just love us for that, is we don't just throw in AI ML buzzwords, right? We have a very focused use case specific behavioral learning capabilities that we provided, especially focused on DDoS. So instead of just saying AI and ML, we go and tell the customers that we understand your application's behavior And then based on this behavior, we'll come up with a recommendation engine on what the policy has to be. And then we back it up with management to do it. So I think a use case centric approach and AI ML being the underlying power of providing that use case simplicity is what they love, as opposed to just having those buzzwords on top of it. And the number 3 across our product line that they love, because security is no longer, there's no silver bullet for it. It's level 24/7 support. So we back our products with 24/7 support and management that they love.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And please tell us your most common industries and use cases that you see with your customers.
Yeah, so no prizes for guessing that in terms of the maturity level and the pressing need in this space, the number 1 is financial sector, right? So our biggest segment in the enterprise space and in enterprise segment where we go is BFSI, banking, finance. And what I'm seeing in this space, I'm seeing also significant growth in the fintech companies who are trying to come up with a new lending platform or a new credit rating platform, or existing traditional banks that are embracing digitization to stay one step ahead, right? So BFSI is my number 1 vertical. My number 2 vertical is actually SaaS, other product companies who themselves are a startup or a funded startup who are trying to solve a problem in logitech or education tech or health tech, and they are running at 150 miles an hour. They are a startup, so they still have the frugal startup mentality of getting things done right, but they have an enterprisey need for security, especially if they are in health tech and all those things. So that seems to be a sweet spot for us, because even though they are not big enough, the managed capabilities that we provide seems to be one of the most compelling features for this startup, because they don't have the time and the bandwidth, whereas a traditional company will have their own SOC. So I think the number 2 I would say is new age tech companies. I would broadly categorize them as SaaS, but doesn't have to be SaaS. New age tech companies that is using technology to solve a traditional business much better. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. And what is the pricing for Indusface? How would you describe it to people watching the podcast?
So we have a free forever product. So if somebody wants to get a risk assessment done, we have free forever dollars. I mean, it's like you go to your doctor and I want to do my basic health check done. It's free. But the moment you want to do a more specialized assessment in terms of my blood test and sampling and do a more deeper assessment, then we start with slightly higher incremental plan, which is $59 a month. And then you say, okay, it's just not enough to get a more deeper assessment done. I want to have a program in place where on a consistent basis I'm healthy. I have a dedicated health nutritionist. I have a doctor who monitors me on an ongoing basis. Then we have a $99 plan, and then a complete plan with specialized nutritionist, specialized checkups and everything. It's a premium plan, which is $399. And of course, we also have an enterprise plan where you have multiple assets when you want to slice and dice and mix and match various plans. They come under the enterprise bucket. Typically, the enterprise buckets will be enterprises which have more than 6 applications that they want to start with. That's when the enterprise plan starts making more sense.
That was a very good analogy. I'd love to know how competitive is your market and how you differentiate from the rest.
The market, I mean, so honestly, we have not been a category creator in this sense, but we have basically an existing category. We have shown a better way of doing it, right? So web application firewall, web application scanning, application security, penetration testing, this has been there for 20 years. Right? They have been there for 20 years, and we started this less than, half a decade back is when our first cloud-based version product was launched. The entire platform was launched in 2017. But by bringing together all the pieces on an established category, we showed that when the category was becoming mainstream, typical Gartner hype cycle is it goes through a trough of disillusionment, and then it becomes mainstream, right? So when it is getting mainstream, we actually showed for a mass market adoption, by bringing together all this piece, we basically showed that this category is probably a better way of doing things. And hence, we have been able to to get a big chunk of, I wouldn't say the biggest chunk of the market, but whoever comes to know us, our win rate is very high. Our challenge is how do I get more people to know about us? Because the traditional 20-year-old people still have the first mover advantage of an established brand. But giving the message of how to do it better at a lower price point, especially for new age startups, is where our biggest challenge is more marketing and reach and not product. In terms of product market fit and our right to win once the customer evaluates is well established.
I understand. I saw you invested a lot in education, in blog posts, webinars, podcasts, videos, and I understand. When did you start the company exactly?
So the company, the journey has been pretty, it's unique. So the company in the current avatar on the Aptrana platform is less than 6 years old, the cloud-based model. Before that, in 2012, we had a mini exit. I mean, it was our first version of the product was nothing more than a malware scanner, where we did assessment and we are doing a malware scan. And the product market fit, I wouldn't say, I mean, in terms of adoption and everything was going on, but we were actually bleeding a lot of money at that point of time. But the product was so good and the customer testimonials were so good that we actually had an offer on the table to do an asset sale of the product to a large cybersecurity company, a multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity company, which wanted that capabilities as part of their own portfolio. And that ended up becoming our very high Series A funding, because what ended up happening was we sold the product, the team also went along with it to the acquiring company. And we are sitting on this pile of cash, which was small for the acquiring company, but big enough for us as founders. But not big enough for us to say retire, and we still had the energy to do something. So what we did was we learned from that first mistake on the first version, and we said that this is what the market is looking like, and now we don't have a problem of cash and other things. So we paid ourselves a little bit, and we put a majority of it rebuilding the entire capabilities, rebuilding the entire product, and our non-compete with them was just a couple of years. And that is the amount of time it takes to actually build a new product. And we decided on web application firewall because that category has been in existence for more than a decade. But we felt that cloud adoption was happening at the time. New age companies were coming in at that time, which were adopting cloud. And being able to take a cloud-centric approach, born in the cloud for the cloud approach, could be our ability to get a right to win in the newer market as opposed to going and displacing existing people on an established category. So with that thought process and vision in mind, it took us a good 3 to 4 years after the non-compete clause was over to rebuild the product, rebuild the team, get the product right, get the first few customers, and we launched Aptrana as 100% cloud offering. We don't do on-premises, we don't do we were very clear that it has to be 100%. And that's so if you can say that our company is right now Aptrana as a product, and the company in its current avatar and our vision is 6 years old.
Okay, wow, thanks for sharing the story.
As a registered entity, we are 11 years old now, but the mini exit and then rebuilding and then the first version, and then that's so in the current avatar it's effectively 6 years old.
But how big was the team when you sold the company, the product?
Product day 0, 2 people, 3 people, building the team to 10. When the exit happened to Trend Micro, it was a 50% team. Then the entire team went away and we had started again from scratch. In 2017, when we launched the version 1, we were a 50% company, 50 to 60% company. Today, we are 150 plus, 160 plus. Of course, we are front loading our investment. I mean, if you really look at our unit economics is fundamentally very strong, right? But we are spending a lot of money. Most of them are tech people. Number 1 spending is on tech. Number 2 spending is on marketing. And number 3 is on sales.
Okay.
Number 4 is on support and 24/7 support and everything,
Okay, so just to understand better, when you sold the first product, most of your team went to the bigger corporation?
Yeah. Correct.
And how big was the founding team of your 2, 3 co-founders?
3 co-founders. That's it.
Okay. And then you started building.
And the back office team stayed back with us. The finance, the HR,
Okay.
But the R&D team went. The salespeople stayed back with
Okay.
us. Uh,
I understand. And for this company, you raised any funding, or you just used
no,
your
till 2020, we did not raise any funding. So the exit that we had, the sale of that, asset sale of that, became our Series A fund to help us
Okay,
to
okay.
invest back in the product. So we were bootstrapped. Technically, we were bootstrapped till 2020. And in 2020, we raised external round of fund from Tata Capital.
Makes sense.
In the midst
Okay.
of, in the midst and the peak of COVID, we got a growth institution that put money. So in the current climate, people will be able to appreciate this. We raised $5 million of external capital, and our ARR
Okay.
is 10 million. So capital efficiency ratio is a new term. So our ARR is 2 times more than total capital we have raised. It's exactly the opposite that you see in other $10 million ARR company. They have raised 100 millions or 90 million dollars, and they're still trying to figure out how do I make money. And then, so we are very
Yep.
capital. Our problem is how do I take this foundation and keeping the same foundation, how do I make the journey from 10 to 100 and 100 to billion? Because the market is big enough to make the journey, and we are not crazy to do it too fast. But of course, we want to do it fast, but not speed just for the sake of speed. Keeping those business fundamentals in place is how we want to grow, and our investors is also very well aligned with the thought process. CAC payback is probably one of
Yep.
the key metrics that we look at, which balances the growth with the front loading and cost and minimizing the risk metric that we look at as we grow.
I understand. Thank you so much for sharing. This is super cool. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. So you're in a good position with that
Yeah.
ratio. So you said that your biggest challenge is still education, marketing, sales, right?
I'm personally moving to the US uh,
Yeah.
to build the enterprise acquisition program in the US. So
Nice.
again, go there, study, do those 10, 15, 20 wins correct, do the entire end-to-end customer delight properly, and then build on it. It's okay if you don't get 300% growth. It's okay to have 70, 80% growth and 20% EBITDA. That's probably not a bad space to be in.
Yeah.
Because the market is not going anywhere. The security is, it's not like I'm in a hurry to do it tomorrow. It's not like the window of opportunity is going to go away. We keep innovating,
correct.
and that opportunity is going to be there for us.
What did you say was your biggest mistake that you did?
Biggest mistake, I sometimes I put the horse, what is it called? Putting the cart before the horse, especially in sales and marketing. So my number one mistake was we were tech and sales driven. So when we went in this, embarked on this journey of marketing and getting international wins, we thought that because we are getting large banks and customers here, I could just replicate this in the US. Ended up hiring an enterprise sales team, and in the US, we didn't have a brand, we didn't have regional references at the time. I wouldn't say it was completely a mistake, it was wrong timing, and we did not have the appetite to sustain that mistakes to make it work. So hence, in hindsight, I can now say it's mistake, because just because I have product market fit and enterprise wins in India doesn't mean I'm going to get it right in US. I could not get it right in US in the shorter window of time expected, because the amount of money I had to keep pumping in was something I couldn't sustain at the level that we are in. So that was a very big mistake in terms of just assuming that it works here means I just replicate it there. It's going to work there, but the cost structure, the brand, the referenceability was different. So it's a very big. The second biggest mistake I made was this entire concept of specialization in the funnel metrics. So as founders, you are hustlers, right? You end up doing everything. The first 10 customers, the first 20 customers, hustling works. But the moment you go from 20 to 100, hustling works to an extent, and you build a team. But then the moment I went from beyond 100, whatever was the capabilities and the hustling skills in terms of, yes, I get a lead, I follow up. I was the one who was actually picking up the lead, following up with emails, closing the sales, doing the pre-sales, and then winning the customer and to some essence customer support too, right? But then I realized that now it's all about structures and specialization. What you have in top of the funnel, you need a specialized team. Middle of the funnel, in terms of sales development reps, you need a specialized team. Hunters and farmers, in terms of sales, account execs, you need a specialized team. And then customer success management. So we evolved from being a one-person do-it-all, which is what typically founders do, to
Yes.
then having a very small, lean, mean team doing everything across the funnel, to now saying that, oh my God, this is not working because salespeople, they are not wired to a 90% rejection. I get 100 leads, inbound leads, it's still inbound, but 90 of them will not move immediately. It will move later on. There is an interest, right?
Yes.
So salespeople cannot be doing that because their brains are not wired to be efficient in that thing. So you need an SDR setup there. Salespeople need to work on, once a qualified opportunity comes, do a stellar demo, show the product capabilities, show the competitive metrics, show the pricing, do all those things. And then finally, after that, customer success is not about just upselling. It is all about customer product usage. So again, a salesperson mentality doesn't work there because he's just going to look at upsell, upsell, upsell. Customer
Yes.
success to some extent is antipodal to a sales thinking because to sometimes you have to go ahead and tell the customers, you are paying me $100, but you can do this things and you have to pay me only $80. That's fine because you're increasing your retention. Your churn goes down and that increases
Yes.
the value, right? So we set up so these are all things. I mean, if I start counting my mistakes, I can have a separate call around that. But broadly, putting the cart before the horse in terms of sales setup in a new region, and secondly, funnel metric specialization, a specialized team, especially as we matured beyond 100, where two things, if in hindsight, I can go do a little bit better. And in fact, I do spend a lot of my time advising startups, and I make sure they don't repeat those mistakes and make their own newer sets of mistakes and not the ones I made.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate the transparency, and I really like your mindset. And now more on the personal side, please tell us how you started your career. What is your story?
I'm from a different generation. Probably I passed out in the 90s, early 90s, mid 90s is when I graduated. I did have an entrepreneurial streak immediately after I graduated. I was based in India at the time, and I did have a few startups and software products going on, and actually it was doing reasonably well. But Uncle Sam called me, and the power of the dollar and the dollar multiplied by the rupee value at the time was very attractive enough for me to fall prey to it. And I just couldn't imagine making that kind of money, even if my business is done. So I took the plunge, and of course, going to a new city, new country was a different experience by itself. And very young, right in 20s. So I moved to the US and Canada in 94, 95. I worked there for 12 years. And then in that period, I saw the dot-com boom, the internet craze, all of that happening, right? 94, 95, I was in Coral, which is a graphics company. Then I moved to Cognos. Then I saw Netscape, and I think the startup ecosystem was getting onto me. And then I was fortunate enough that even in my corporate life, I was solving day zero problems, launching a new product. I was one of the few people who moved from engineering into sales. I hardcore hunting sales. So I was an account exec. So as a techie, salespeople used to love me because I understood sales. And as a sales guy, tech people loved me. Even though I was not the best of both worlds, the other function used to love me more. So I moved back to India to set up the APAC business for the corporate cybersecurity company in North America. And that's when I met Ashish, my co-founder. And we said that, Venki, I had not worked in India much before that. He said, you have the product knowledge, I have the India knowledge. So why don't we partner? And it was an overnight decision, and we jumped into it, and it's been an amazing journey. Ideas are dime a dozen. Sometimes it's about whom you work with, the kind of ecosystem you create, and that is important for you to sustain it, right? So and staying the course. We have been able to stay the course in spite of many crises we have gone through it, but gone through it together, and have a sense of fun while doing that.
That's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing. What would you say was your biggest learning, your biggest piece of advice that you can share with a starting founder?
So first thing is, I would say this entire notion of founders thinking that they have this $1 billion idea. There is no such thing as a $1 billion idea. right? Idea. So I think when you look at an idea, if the idea gives you a tingle or it gives you a spark, that's about it. So I tell anybody starting up, there is no, I mean, you and me sit, Christian, in 100 minutes, we can come up with 100 ideas. Every problem that we see around us is an opportunity.
Yes.
Right? So don't wait for the perfect idea. If the idea gives you a spark, then it's exciting enough. But before taking the plunge, especially one piece, if you want to have a framework in place, make sure that you are solving a problem in a large enough market. Is a total addressable market big enough? There is no point in solving a problem which is very small. Of course, there's nothing wrong in it. Again, it depends on goals you want, right? If your goal is to make big and a brand, if it's a big enough market, then it's exciting, and especially you want to do a fundraise and other things. So I think ideas are dime a dozen if it gives a tingle. But the second thing I would ask them is try to do some evaluation, even if it's a category creating market. There is no precedence of the category. You can still come up with some sort of a market sizing in terms of some proxy indicators to know what can be the market sizing. So I would look at the second thing is, instead of taking the blind plunge, also do a little bit of scientific study in terms of how big can the market be, and is it connecting? It's not just money. Is it connecting to your goals? Like it's not just money. It's a lot of money, right? And the money is an indicator of the brands you are building, and hence the market sizing becomes very, very, very important. So I think those are the two pieces of advice I'll give. Third piece I would probably say is never lose your sense of having fun. Right? If you stop having fun, then that's it. Then might as well do something else. Especially the founding team, you should be able to have respect for each other and have fun in spite of many, many, many conflicts that will keep happening day in and day out.
Yeah,
right?
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you. What's your favorite SaaS product that you use?
What's my favorite SaaS product I use?
Yes.
Oh, of course, AppTrana for our own websites. That's my favorite. Of course, besides my own product, we use market automation softwares, especially when I told you the story about our journey from being sales driven and hustling to now becoming a more structured, process driven company. So market automation was something that I did not know, A/B testing, all those things. So I think right now my team is using HubSpot. I used a product called LeadSquare, but we are now using HubSpot. So I would say HubSpot and Zoho. These are my two favorite SaaS products. Zoho for my sales automation. HubSpot, I don't think I can claim it because I have personally not used it, because my new team is championing the cause and they are saying, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I can do all this reporting, so that's fine. So I believe them. I personally have not used it. For me, it is Zoho. Zoho is my number one.
Thank you so much for the
SaaS product. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining the podcast. You did fantastic, and I'm super happy to have you. Is there anything else that you want to say today on the podcast?
I think that's it. We covered it probably all. Thanks for hosting me. It was fun.
Thank you so much.